Online at 560theanswer.com.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Goldilocks, offering 24/7 security solutions for homes and businesses. Call them today at 708-889-5600.
Now, from The Signature, a division of Esquire Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Were to win in November, Dr. El-Sayed, how do you make Medicare for All a reality when so far it has not had enough support?
Well, Kristen, I've been up and down my state, and everywhere I go, people say the same things. It just shouldn't be this hard. And one of the big things that they bring up is the fact that they're worried about having to see a doctor if they get sick and what that'll mean for them. The median deductible, meaning the money that you pay to get the health care you already thought you paid for every single month, is about $4,500 for a family of four. That, considering the fact that the median income is about $80,000, means that you're going to lose more than a whole paycheck just to actually pay for the healthcare you thought you already paid for. Our system has only gotten less and less effective, less efficient over time as we've watched health insurance corporations collude with big hospitals and the pharmaceutical industry to figure out how to pick more and more of our dollars out of our pocket to put into theirs. We don't have to live like this. We have an opportunity to guarantee cradle-to-grave healthcare from the moment that somebody is born to the moment that they expire, God willing, at 120 years of life after a long, healthy life in their sleep peacefully. And it would guarantee them the health care that they need independent of the circumstances, wherever they needed to go. That is the kind of security we've never had in this country, and is the kind of security that the healthcare corporations have denied us. So we're watching more people support Medicare for All every day. We're watching more elected officials support Medicare for All every day. And in a lot of ways, this campaign was a referendum on whether or not we want health care here or bomb somewhere else. And I think the Michigan voter chose health care here.
We're seeing a lot of and hearing a lot of idiots and really dumb people calling for Medicare for All. Joining us on the phone right now is the general manager at WRFH 101.7 FM of Hillsdale, Michigan. He's a lecturer in journalism at Hillsdale College and a born and bred Illinoisan, even though he's now a Michigander, as they call themselves there. Scot Bertram, welcome on to Chicago's Morning Answer.
Mike, I did not need to start my week by hearing Abdul El-Sayed picture me dying peacefully in my sleep at the age of 120. That was very odd.
Wasn't it? And you probably got bombarded with him nonstop in the last couple of weeks before the election that you guys had there.
Yes, we saw a lot of him. We saw a lot of ads. You know, Abdul El-Sayed ran for governor a couple of years ago, and I've heard a little less of it this time around. But there was a lot of talk of him being the I can't remember who it was, the Arab Obama, the Muslim Obama. But sort of implying that he had the same sort of gravitas and political skill, and he was very suave and just like Barack Obama. And having watched him now for two whole campaign cycles, or at least 1.5 campaign cycles, I don't really see much of that at all in Abdul El-Sayed, other than the fact that the media and Democrats wish to prop him up in that manner.
Yeah, not to get too into the weeds here, but looking at all the counties that voted for El-Sayed in Michigan and the ones that voted for Stevens, who compared to him, I guess, is slightly more moderate, but she won a lot of the cities. She won a lot of the urban areas in Michigan, and he won the non-urban areas. But he was predicted to, really clobber her, wasn't he? And he only barely won by 1%. What was that about, and why do you think that was? Was that a polling discrepancy, or was did she just have a really late surge, Stevens?
Polling is notoriously very tough in Michigan. Might remember a semi-big error in the Bernie Sanders-Hillary Clinton primary race from 2016. I did not believe any of those polls leading up to the race that had El-Sayed up 17, 18, 22 points. A lot of those were funded by El-Sayed super PACs, which take with a grain of salt, and I did not feel that was the way the race was going to play out. A 1 to 2 point race, which is what we ended up getting, is about what I thought it was going to be, and it was a toss-up in terms of which candidate was going to win. Now, you're semi-right, semi-wrong on what happened in the state. El Sayed really only ran up the score in two places, in Ann Arbor and also in Grand Rapids. Western Michigan used to be a bastion of conservatism, and much like Chicago's collar counties, in recent years it's been trending a little more blue and a little more radical in those Democratic areas. So El Sayed won Ann Arbor, won the Grand Rapids area like 65-35, and he won a handful of counties around the state as well. But Hillary Stevens won Wayne County, where Detroit is, because black voters don't want socialism. And Hillary Stevens ended up winning a lot of the more rural counties around the state, too. She won more counties than El Sayed, but El Sayed really ran up the score in those couple of places that he did win.
Interesting. And when listeners just heard him, and by the way, why this is so important is because it is one of the few seats in the country that could flip from D to R. So there are some predictions that Susan Collins might lose in Maine, who's a Republican, so that would flip to the D. And I really doubt this is going to happen, but some people are thinking that the Texas Senate races could flip from R to D. But, the Democrats only need 3 or 4 seats, and they'll control the Senate. And many are predicting, not most, but many are, or most I should say probably too, are predicting that the Democrats will likely take the House. But the Senate, in this Senate seat in Michigan, could flip to Mike Rogers. So how do you, at this stage, see that shaping out? Is Rogers running a good campaign? Is Al Sayed going to embarrass himself? I mean, he didn't sound that dumb compared to some of these other Democrat candidates we've heard and seen. He doesn't seem to be that, inept.
Well, let's start here. Michigan does not have a great history of electing Republican U.S. senators. I believe there's been one in the past 40 years or so. You'd have to double check me on that. And it came in 1994 in the Newt Gingrich wave of 94. Now, Mike Rogers nearly won last cycle running against a highly skilled, highly supported by Democrat candidate in Alyssa Slotkin, who is now a U.S. Senator. That race was incredibly tight. Mike Rogers ran a very good race and ended up a few thousand votes short across the state. So he came back for another bite of the apple this time around. And I think there was initially a little Rogers fatigue, like, we just saw you. We want to have you again. I'm not sure about that. However, the way this race has worked out, they essentially cleared the field for Rogers. He had no significant primary opposition for most of his campaign, and now gets to run a race against Abdul Al-Sayed. And Mike Rogers is, I don't want to say uniquely, but is very qualified to run the kind of race that's going to be needed to beat Abdul Al-Sayed, meaning Rogers is endorsed by President Trump. He's not a hard, the left would say he's not a hard right kind of guy. He's a guy who's going to be acceptable to the right. He's a guy who's going to be acceptable to mainstream conservatives, right of center voters, probably can appeal to moderate independents, and also can appeal to Jews, pro-Israel voters who are completely turned off by Abdul Al-Sayed and what the Democratic Party is becoming today. There was a Fox News poll late last week that had him up 4 points. Again, polling in Michigan is very, very tough, but I do think Rogers, as a Republican candidate, is well positioned to take advantage of the liabilities that Al-Sayed brings with him on the ticket.
That's somewhat encouraging. I mean, this is one of these races that us political junkies will be watching on election night in November, like refresh, see what the results are coming in, because it could be the seat that flips the entire U.S. Senate, honestly. I mean, it could be the difference between a 50-50 Senate, a 51-49 Senate, or, God forbid, a 49-51, Democrat-favored Senate for the last 2 years of Trump's presidency. Scott Bertram, we have to say, I should have led with this to endear you to the listeners of this program, but you and I go way back, of course, and many of the listeners to AM 560 The Answer hear your voice on the Hillsdale College spots that run on this station. But you and I, the biggest thing that we share in common is we voted for the same person for governor of Illinois in 2010. Tell our listeners who that is if they don't remember.
2010.
Yeah. For the primary of 2010.
In the primary, yes, yes, that would be Mr. Dan Proft.
Yes.
Dan and I are both White Sox fans. Dan and I both went to the same high school. Dan and I go way back.
I remember texting you because you had just added my show to WROK in Rockford like the year prior, and I think I asked you like, "Hey, who are you voting for in this primary?" Or maybe you asked me, I don't remember, and we both texted back, "Dan Proft. We're voting for Dan Proft. Illinois is not broken; it's fixed."
That was the tagline. Indeed,
yes. And what was his quote? He said in the debate, it was a quote from The Jerk, I think, by Steve Martin, but I don't think a lot of people got it. But he said, "I too grew up poor black in Chicago," or something like that. It was brilliant. But anyway, yes, we are both big fans of this radio program and of Dan Proft. And those White Sox, man, they won 40 games or 41 games 2 years ago and 60 last year, and now they're running away with the AL Central. What the heck happened there, Scott?
Unexpected growth in many areas. If you told me Miguel Vargas was going to be one of the best third basemen in the league this year, it would have been a surprise. Murakami's been better than perhaps many people thought, at least the rest of the league thought, because no one else wanted to sign him apparently to the kind of deal the White Sox did, a 2-year deal. I am cautiously optimistic. This pitching staff was not built to last a whole season. They expected upgrades from the minor leagues, and the problem is all those potential upgrades are either injured or scuffling at this point. And so you've got to kind of duct tape this thing the rest of the way, the last 5-6 weeks of the season, try to make the postseason and go from there.
And I mean, the Cubs and the White Sox play tonight. And the Cubs are having a pretty decent season, too. It's always fun in the Chicago area when both the Cubs and White Sox are doing well. As a White Sox fan, you hate the Cubs. But, I mean, what's the likelihood of a Cubs-White Sox World Series?
Well, still likely very small for many reasons. The greatest of which is postseason in baseball these days is a completely crapshoot. Who knows what's going to happen?
It's like 20 teams in it.
Series. That's right. I mean, so you've got a lot of chances to stub your toe along the way.
Yeah. And you excited about the Chicago Bears? They had a preseason game last night, I think, didn't they? Do you watch preseason games or no?
Saturday.
Yeah.
I do, but only because it's good to have football back, right? I just want to see them play. You can't glean too much. The coaches know what they're looking for from particular players and if they're doing right or wrong, but it's just nice to have football back on the screen. So I watched most of Saturday's game. I am excited for the Bears season, despite injuries in the secondary that are piling up. Ozzie Trapillo's back on the left side of the line. Perhaps he's just activated from the PUP list over the weekend. So I am excited.
I know you're extremely excited for the likelihood of the Chicago Bears moving to Indiana, which will be a bit closer to where you live in Michigan. So you could go to the games with probably not a whole lot of traffic to worry about compared to them staying in Illinois. Scott Bertram, Hillsdale College. Anything else you'd like to add before we say goodbye?
Look, on the Michigan Senate race, the other thing about Abdul El-Sayed is there's going to be a lot coming out. I don't think Haley Stevens' team did a great job of opposition research. I don't think she ran an extremely hard campaign against him. Seemingly every day, the Free Beacon has something else against Abdul El-Sayed. The Detroit News this past weekend actually read his book from 2020 and picked out a few things that, might have helped Haley Stevens if she would have looked at them during the primary. So there's, a couple months to go before the election, and I think we're going to see a good deal of Oppo research and just, facts about Abdul El-Sayed that might not deter hardcore Democrats from voting for him, but might appeal to those moderates and independents who are looking for a reason to cast a ballot for Mike Rogers.
Love the analysis. Scott Bertram, Hillsdale College. Thank you for coming on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it.
We'll be right back.
This is the morning show more Chicago radio listeners are choosing. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Foundations of Freedom.